This episode of XIV Reborn is brought to you by Audible. For a free 30-day trial, head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker. Get 30 days and a free book.
Gamebreaker TV.
Hello, Internet, and welcome to XIV Reborn, episode number 27 for February 25th, 2014. I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magic Man, and on today's show, patch 2.16 adds a little more than we originally thought. Yoshi P spills the beans to Game Watch, and when is a ninja patch not exactly a ninja patch? All that and more, but first, you know him, you love him, Mr. Happy, Michael Poveromo. How are you, sir?
I'm doing swell. How about you? How was your trip from the airport?
Yes, it was fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. So if you're watching us live, we're a little bit late. Had to pick up the wifey from the airport, and apparently the airlines didn't want her to get in on time. So I thank the co-hosts for being patient with me. Joining us today, GBN officer, Gamebreaker Nation, Final Fantasy XIV on server Behemoth, Nick Baker, a.k.a. Neobari. How are you, sir?
I'm doing so well, but I keep sending you the ready check, and you keep failing it. Come on. Come on.
Well,
That's
could
okay.
that could have to do with the fact that you're spamming the hell out of it. A topic we'll get to in our first section here. So, guys, 2.16 dropped this week. We knew it was going to be mostly quality of life editions. Happy, you and I, we talked about some of them last week with Iwara. We had really gone in depth 2 weeks ago when it was just you and I. Bit surprised by the patch notes, actually, though. There was a ton of stuff when the patch actually went live. A few surprises in there, if you will.
Yeah, and it seems that they like to do that, because 2.1 had a lot of that too, but I didn't expect them to hide a bunch of stuff in one of these little sub-patches that they're doing, but I was pleasantly surprised with a lot of the things I saw. I did not expect a lot of it.
So then let's start there. I mean, if you were pleasantly surprised, I know I was. Neo, I know you scour these things. Neo's kind of like our technical go through the details kind of guy in the Gamebreaker Nation. He loves the Excel sheets and breaking it all down. Neo, let's start with you. Favorite surprise. Now, don't pick one of them. I know you love the bell in Revenant's Toll so that you can get your retainer.
Right. But the thing about the Revenant's Toll bell is that they destroyed this nice garden that was right next to
That was
where
my
they put
hangout
the,
spot.
where they put the bell. It's gone. Where's the garden?
That was my
Apparently
hangout
it's in
spot.
2.2 because they're putting him in the housing, but the garden's gone. I miss it already.
That's it. Unsub. Son of a...
Yeah.
My garden's gone. I'm out of here. Seriously, though, what were you surprised by that you liked?
What I really liked was the increase in the size of the icons for turn 5. The icons are like way bigger now. We can actually see them even if you've got nameplates on. So there's no excuse now for you not to see those icons, especially for dive bombs. Best part of the patch.
Happy?
Waymarkers. And for multiple reasons. Because one, I hate the inconsistency of saying, yeah, just go stand next to that guy. I'd rather be able to say, yeah, because you know how like you got to start describing what the arena looks like. You got to try and think, okay, you know the area of the arena that looks like, you know, if a worm were to bite out of an apple and a little yeah, we'll go stand in that spot in the room. Now it's actually go stand on A, go stand on B, go stand on C. And also as a content creator for YouTube, it's a hell of a lot easier to explain to somebody with A, B, and C versus anything else.
Turn 4 is fun, right? Turn 4 is one that definitely benefits from the floor waypoint markers because until then, it's been go watch this video, go get this chart. You know, maybe you get a chart and put it on your second monitor or whatever, or you try to explain it in the area before it spawns by using cardinal directions that everybody forgets 2 minutes into the fight. So turn 4, Titan's another one, particularly with bombs, if somebody's really quick, right, at throwing down a waypoint at where to get to or where you're going to run to with the bombs, extreme mode in particular. So, yeah, definitely agree with you. Big pickup there. Lots of free company editions, though. You guys, especially with the free company housing, we already talked about the stores that you're going to get. But free companies, and Neo being an officer, some of these are like godsends to the way we manage things.
Well, kind of.
Oh, he's bitter.
No, it's not that I'm bitter. It's that the system is okay. It's pretty rudimentary. The fact that you can invite through it is nice, but I'd like a little bit more than just the casual button and hardcore button. And Guild Hest button? Why is there a Guild Hest button in this? Is that really necessary?
I'm starting a Guild Hest guild, and anybody in chat that wants to join is more than welcome. Well, that's all we're going to do is Guild Hests all day.
That sounds really exciting.
We're going to boost each other with commendations?
Hey, how I get my 500 is my business, man. That's my business.
It's going to be seal sweetener all the time.
But if you're looking seriously though, if you're looking for a free company, this is a really nice start rather than just looking for somebody that's shouting, hoping that they do the same thing you do and maybe checking out their website. This is a nice repository that isn't the lodestone, right? And until now, everything has been, we'll go look at the lodestone, we'll go look at the lodestone, we'll go look at the lodestone. This is really nice to be able to at least get a basic idea right in game. Here's some free companies that are recruiting. Here's the ones that are PvP focused. Here's the ones that are PvE focused. Here's the ones that are a little more in my time zone, my time area. And a nice starting point. A nice starting point.
Well, time zones would have been good, but you've got weekdays and weekends. That's it.
If you uncheck those, does it just say active never? I don't know if anyone's tried.
I haven't checked. I haven't fiddled with it at all.
Never active. We don't do anything.
No, weekends, weekdays, no. Just we're here. We exist, and that's the end of it.
Happy, you got your market boards and retainer bells.
Yes, sir, we did.
In the housing district.
Yeah, and it's right next to our house, too. It's a very, very prime location.
They have housing in this game?
Yeah, like how many houses? Like
I didn't realize they still. I thought they took it out. Nobody was using it.
There's a lot of houses on my server.
So let's go back to last week's topic then. On the player stores, and now the market boards are in the housing district. What the hell is the point of the player store? It really can't just boil down to there are some items that you can sell in the marketplace and there are some items that you can sell in the player stores. That can't be the only dividing line here, right? I mean, talk me off the ledge. It's Girl Scout cookies.
It's Girl Scout cookies.
Yes.
That's all you're going to sell. There's Girl Scout
Samoas.
Cookies. Yep.
Artificial coconut.
Yeah.
Artificial coconut, baby.
No,
seriously, is that what it's going to come down to? Is that, okay, this item can be sold in the marketplace, this one can't, but it can be sold in a player store?
I mean, we discussed the whole ordering thing, which is still a possibility.
Yeah, that would be super cool.
But then even so, now you have a wish list for the market.
Yeah, in the marketplace.
Next closest thing to it. That's the next closest thing. It's just a one-button way of checking if it's on sale, but it's still a quick way to access those. I think it will be. I think it'll come down to stuff, and I just hope it's not common everyday stuff that people are going to need for, I hope it's rare stuff that people can only sell, but it may or may not be that. I don't know. It's either going to make complete sense when they reveal it all, or it's going to make absolutely no sense.
I think it's got to be tied to personal housing. It's got to be tied to personal housing because you're going to make it so that your personal house is going to be your bazaar, and they're just implementing it for guild housing because they can. They see if the feature works. It's the only thing to me that makes any sense.
See, but here's the thing then. To me, that feels like a shoehorned feature. and not even a needed feature, right? It's just being added to the game because people have said they want it, that they want player stores. It's not being added in a meaningful way. It's just being added because players want it, and we're going to draw this arbitrary. Maybe there'll be some type of, like you say, Neo, some type of dividing line, housing this way and non-housing this way. But it's still an arbitrary line, right? It doesn't make the feature meaningful to me. Am I the only one?
No. We just don't have enough information, in my opinion. I mean, the problem is
but moving the market boards in there is a good indication of this is the way it's gonna go. We don't have the official information yet, but the freaking market boards are there now. No?
No, they must have. My guess is they put it on the list. They thought it was a good idea. They finished it when they did, and then they went, well, why did we do this in the first place?
I miss bazaars.
No, I miss bazaars too. But I think that's what this is ultimately going to be, is the replacement for bazaars.
And it's a pretty bad replacement right now.
Oh, it's
I don't know.
lousy.
And I hope when we get more details about this, it's one of those things like we've had that happen on this show before where we talk about something in speculation and we're like, oh no. And then they drop it and we're like, well, damn, that's pretty cool, actually. And I'm hoping that there's some little twist or little notch in here that we're not seeing right now that is going to really make this a cool feature. But the addition of the market boards in the housing district, which wasn't something we knew last week until 2.16 dropped, as soon as I saw that, it was like, okay, now really, what's the point of the player stores? The economy is a little bit of a mess right now, right? And speaking of economy, you guys are now able to get off legacy servers in about 4 days here.
The housing idea worked.
Yeah. Hey, seriously, though, on that topic, are you expecting a flux of population off your server? You're the only one of the three of us that plays regularly on legacy.
No, I'm not. A lot of people seem to be more interested in going to legacy servers like Sargatanas and Hyperion and Excalibur because they're very highly populated. So I've had more people tell me they're excited to come to my server than I've heard of people saying, yeah, now I get to leave this server. So I'm actually expecting an influx of people to come to the server.
We've actually had in Gamebreaker Nation a whole bunch of people wishing they could take their legacy characters and bring them onto Behemoth. So we're looking forward to the influx of people who are like, we want to play with you guys, but we can't yet. Well, welcome home on Saturday, folks.
March 1st. Be able to transfer off legacy. So back to the topic on hand. The player housing just seems kind of like tacked in there. The economy's not very good right now in the game. There needs to be some work to actually make crafting purposeful. So I hope they have huge tricks up their sleeve. I just don't know what they could be. Every time we're like, okay, maybe it's this, they go ahead and they throw the market boards in there, and it's like, okay, well, clearly it's not that. So it's going to be weird to see what they actually do with player housing. I really just don't want it to be like a fractured market, right? Where if I want this item, I go to the marketplace. If I want this, I got to find a player, which, right, there's still we don't know of any way to search the player stores without physically going to each and every NPC retainer. So if I want X product and it's not a marketplace item, I don't know. That seems like a silly fracturing
XIVAH.com?
Right.
There you go.
Other news, though. Good news. The market boards and the player housing kind of in the air right now, but really, really good news. The pets have been reworked. In particular, their obey commands and all that fun stuff. Tons of work done there. Much needed work down there. Happy, take us through it.
Well, the first and most important thing, and I actually made a scholar guide recently, and I made a point, like, you have to do it this way. In order to change what mode your pet could be in, the ability where it either does its own thing and you don't tell it to do anything, or where it pretty much will only do a very select amount of options, pretty much its most basic option, and you tell it to do everything else, you needed a target to set that. So basically, if there are no enemies nearby and you wanted to sort of test something out, like you're in town and you're testing out your new macros, even to do something as simple as that, you'd have to run out, find an enemy, target it, and then then you would be able to sort of give it commands. Also, the simple fact that if you issued those commands, it would sort of interrupt the sort of queuing options that your pets use. Your pets actually use sort of a queuing sense, where let's say you move them, and while they're moving, you set a command. There was a problem where those actions would sometimes be canceled, and I have macros that rely very heavily on those actions not being canceled. So there was a fix there. And then you can now cast, you can cast the basic heal with your Eos and Celine. Embrace, yeah. For some reason, it was slipping my mind. I couldn't remember it.
Yeah.
You can now cast that on non-party members. That doesn't seem like a big deal. But even for little things like Crystal Tower, where you might want to heal your other party with your pet, you can now do basic things like that, too. So it was just a lot of little things that sort of made it feel like you didn't control your pet so much, and your pet was just sort of sitting there. It's now much more fluent to control your pets, especially the Scholar pets, Eos and Celine.
Neo, you play of the summoner / scholar variety. Changes much needed?
Yeah, they're definitely needed. Before, it wasn't worth, at least in my estimation, in creating a whole bunch of those macros, just because at any one point the macros can become a disaster. So at this point, I'm actually going to start looking at creating a better set of macros to be able to micromanage my pet a little bit better.
That means we can probably expect a new macro / guide video out of you there soon, Mr. Happy.
Hey, as long as they keep giving us stuff to do macros with, I definitely think there's a Summoner and Scholar, probably the two biggest jobs that need macros, maybe other than Bard.
Monk,
And
I use quite a bit for Monk. But that's just me.
no
Punch
more macros
things.
for me.
Punch things.
Yeah, just punch things. That's all. You do.
Yeah.
Speaking of small additions, the macro icons, obviously. Tons and tons of new items. Like, tons of new items kind of out of nowhere, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go through every item, because that would be very, very boring. But there's a new Chocobo suit. Anybody happy about the Chocobo suit?
No, because you still can't convince me to spend all that time leveling my Chocobo.
Come on!
Oh, man. Yesterday, we had about 10 of us from Gamebreaker Nation go out, and we rocked out with our Chocobos out for a good 2 hours.
Well done, sir. Touche to you, Neo. Nice
you.
reward for leveling, though. It's got to be a nice consolation for the people that spent points in multiple trees and now can't get, like, the White Mage or the Dragoon Barding from leveling the Chocobo through 10. So it's kind of like a nice consolation prize, right?
Yeah, I get to do turn 3 in a Chocobo suit now. Fantastic.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
Running the
hat goes with
gauntlet
it?
dressed as a big bird. Hey, speaking of that, though, when do you guys think we're actually going to see the Chocobo respec item? Do you think that... I want to believe that that's maybe a 2.2, but I don't think it's going to end up there.
You know why I don't think we are ever getting this item?
Ever?
Because the last time he was asked about it, Yoshi P changed the topic to giving you a second Chocobo. So he very clearly doesn't want you to be able to level one Chocobo and get all 3 Bardings just by respecing. So,
well, what if you made it so that it resets it back to 1? I mean, that would be a punch in the face, but at least it would be an option.
Oh, man, that'd be much more than a punch in the face, man.
That'd
be a kick
way
in the
more.
Chocobo. That'd be a kick right in the Chocobo.
Yeah, I don't think that makes me feel any better having said that. But he that's the thing. He redirected the topic away from respecking and instead to giving us a second Chocobo. With the Chocobo farm was specifically to the questions for
Well, and that
housing.
kind of makes sense, though, because not only the Chocobo farm, but we're eventually going to see the Gold Saucer, ideally, which will probably have some element of Chocobo breeding / racing in there. So it makes sense, yeah, 2.3. We'll see.
Please.
Yeah.
I'm saying please.
What do you think it is? Is it just tech? I mean, what's the respec? How hard is that? Or how bad would that be? I mean, I can already...
wouldn't be bad
something
at
more
all.
important than that, right?
It's gotta be super
I
easy,
can
are you
already
kidding me?
drop free company. Like, I have max rank right now in all 3 grand companies. So what's the difference between that and blocking me from being able to get all 3 Bardings? It's not like my Choco can wear all 3 at once or anything. I
you
just
mix and match
I don't
them?
get this. Well, yeah,
I believe you can.
you could.
But that was
Yeah,
the thing,
you
is
could.
if he's got a problem with the fact that he doesn't want you to have all 3 barding once, make it so that in order to use the barding, you actually have to have that rank 10. So if you want to wear the white mage barding, have your healer at 10. That works.
That does work.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it
do
works, but
But we were told we were going to have that for 2.1, and
Yeah.
then it just dropped.
and
The
then
topic
just
was just
disappeared.
Yeah.
never happened again. Which is, I'm just wondering what the design idea behind delaying that kind of feature
That's
is,
why I
and that's
ask.
the only
It's
thing I
got to
can
be something
rationalize.
tech related, right? I mean, I can't think of a valid reason besides there's something in the back end that we can't do to change this. Sorry. Every other reason just kind of seems kind of shallow and false to me almost.
There was something posted, I believe today, about talking about being able to have your Chocobo and ride your Chocobo at the same time.
Yeah.
That's going to be in 2.3 though, not 2.2. So maybe it'll be 2.3 where something like that happens. Because if they're working on the tech to have them out at the same time, maybe they're actually going to give us the reset at that point.
Hopefully. Got targeting circle changes.
Oh, thank God.
Makes it a little easier
well-
for Mr. Happy there as far as
I couldn't
color
even
blindness.
see them in turn 1.
Yeah.
I can't.
So you can see them now?
I can see them all perfectly. There's a point where you're running through in turn 1 because we just train all the trash to the end because it just makes things more interesting. But there's puck
He was like, excuse me, we just pull it all of turn 1. We just pull it all to the end. Because
there's like,
yeah.
well, we can't because there's a golem in the way, but there's 4 or 5 pucks, which are these little dragons that spit fire, and as soon as you aggro them, they're on like, I guess it's red or orange, the glowy parts.
the glowy bits.
Yeah.
And the indicators are completely invisible. So many times somebody will be running through there and just get sniped by all 5 of them and get instantly killed. I am most commonly that person because I can't see them on the ground in situations like that. So I can see all of them now. Doesn't matter where they are. They're very, very visible to me now. So I'm very thankful for these.
New sorting features, refreshing party finder, all kinds of just nice little touches, and it was quite a few of them. Pretty surprising. All in all, it took care of a lot of quality of life issues, right? I mean, there was an awful lot. There's still obviously some there, but it took care of a lot of small little gripes that people have had for a while. Speaking of parties, the ground marking icon was being added, but we knew about that. But we didn't know, and dropped, was the all-important, much-needed ready check. Yeah!
Yeah, I'm really surprised they didn't talk about that. That seems like something
right?
they would have put out there. Maybe they didn't think they'd have it ready, and they just kind of squeezed it in. Well,
so
some
needed.
could say they didn't have it ready.
Yeah.
So much needed, coming in handy, and but there's a downside right now. Neo, we actually got tweets, Mr. Happy and I, today about this very topic, which
good.
I'm sure that Mr. Happy kind of just did the same thing I did. We're not going to reply yet, because that's on the show tonight.
Yeah. I was like,
spam much? Much?
It's so bad.
you know what's worse?
You were talking about Crystal Tower, weren't you, Neo?
Yeah, the first time we were in Crystal Tower, we could tell immediately. We're like, well, wait, it's the middle of the fight. Why are we getting this ready check? And the worst part about it is that, okay, you hit the button, you close it, and then once everybody's clicked on it or it's timed out, the window shows up in the middle of your screen, and it takes up half the screen right in the middle. That's really what I wanted to focus on right now, was the ready check that happened 30 seconds ago. Thanks.
And it just doesn't stop if you get one of those people in your group.
And you know what's
doesn't
worse?
Stop.
You know what's even worse, Mr. Byrne? Have you been on the official forums in the past 2 days?
I was on there yesterday, not today. It was a bit of a hectic day getting the wifey. What's up?
So, that's a very common topic on the official forums. So,
Oh, yeah.
of course, there had to be an official post about it. And they said they'll have it fixed for us by 2.3.
Yes!
Yeah!
Well, maybe we'll have a 2.25.
Just in time for the next Crystal Tower tier.
Maybe we'll have a 2.25 or 2.26. It'll get in there, and they won't tell us about it. So
Oh, I think they'll tell us about it.
Oh, yeah, they'll definitely tell us about this one.
They'll definitely tell us about it.
All right, so enjoy your ready check spam for 4 months. Hey, you know what?
Yes.
There's a lot worse that could be going on, right? The ready check was needed. I'm glad it's there. Yes, you have to deal with the occasional spam. That has nothing to do with Square Enix, right? They're not the ones doing it. The feature, though, when we're running stuff as a free company and we're using it the way it's supposed to be, I'm very happy that it's there. I still got to give that one the thumbs up, even though the spam tendency can get out of whack there a little bit. What did you think of the weather effects, guys?
DX9 doesn't allow for it to do
anybody
much.
checking PS4 and checking it out?
Don't have a PS4 yet, so
Neither do I.
You heard it, Square. DX11 or bust. Some bugs were also addressed.
Yeah.
And some acknowledged, so check out the patch notes, the entire patch notes. Obviously, we can't go over every single thing on the patch notes, but there's lots of other small items and bugs and bug fixes. And check it out. We have them all up at xivnation.com. Now let's move on. Yoshi P sat down with Game Watch. Before we get into that, I want to tell you about somebody we're very happy to have as a sponsor for Game Breaker TV, and that's Audible. Right now we're giving away 30-day free trials and a book. Head on over to audible.com/gamebreaker and check it out. Very easy site to use. So I'm checking out vampires right now before I queued up the show here. I'm looking at real vampires, though, Happy, not the sparkling ones, though. These are the Anne Rice variety. Anne Rice. Interview with a Vampire, one of my favorite books of all time. Definitely available right here. 30-day free trial membership. You can get it free with that. Now, this also has a feature called Whisper Sync. That's why I picked this book. If you've got a Kindle and you have Interview with the Vampire on that, this Whisper Sync feature right here allows you to seamlessly go from Audible to your Kindle back and forth. So you can sit down, read. Oh, I got to go make dinner. Have Audible start giving you the spoken dialogue while you're making dinner. You don't even have to set it down. I guess you would have to set it down. That'd be kind of difficult to cook and hold it. So set it down, but listen to the audio dialogue while you're cooking. Pick it back up, turn Whisper Sync off, and immediately start reading again. So happy to have these guys on as a sponsor. Let's take a look here. A little listen to Interview with the Vampire.
Just start the tape. And then he reached out over the length of the table. The boy recoiled, sweat running down the sides of his face. The vampire clamped a hand on the boy's shoulder and said, "Believe me, I won't hurt you. I want this opportunity. It's more important to me than you can realize now. I want you to begin." And he withdrew his hand and sat collected.
I love when the readers get into it and have voices for all of them, all the characters and everything. Great service. Very happy to have them here. This show isn't possible without them, so if you aren't a member, check them out. Audible.com/gamebreaker for your free 30 days and your free audio book.
Hey, Bern, have you tried searching on the readers? Like, if you really like a reader,
Yeah.
you can search
Yeah.
on that reader in Audible.
I
and
searched
find people
Will.
you really
I searched
like.
Will Wheaton after I found out that he narrated Ready Player One. So yeah,
Yep.
that's when I found that feature. Definitely a cool service. I use it all the time in traveling across PA and into New York and New Jersey all the time. So check it out. Get a free book. How can you support Game Breaker? Support our sponsors. That's the way you do it. So Yoshi P sat down with Game Watch, and they kind of chatted about a little of the old and a little of the new here. It was kind of a mixed bag. It seemed like the topics were standard, but there were a few nuggets in there. And Happy, you did a video on this one where you were like surprised by a few items too. So I think for the most part, it's the same items I kind of raised an eyebrow out at. Do have to put a disclaimer here though. Big disclaimer. Big disclaimer. We're working with a Japanese to English translation of the interview, so some of this you probably want to take with a grain of salt until there's official versions of the translations or other interviews that are officially published in English. So take it with a grain of salt. Words sometimes get a little jumbled in the translations. Little grain of salt. PlayStation 4, 90% done. Nice place to start there. Does that seem about right for you guys? We're in the first beta phase. We're about a month from launch, Neo.
Yeah, from the players that were tried out the beta this weekend, they officially hate the PlayStation 3 now. They want this out immediately. One of the raiders in ours was just so frustrated. He's like, it's night and day. It's wonderful. So if there are any doubts on PlayStation 4 Final Fantasy, there isn't any more. Go get it. It's wonderful.
Well, I believe that's the final word on that one.
I've heard nothing but that as well too,
Yeah.
And even people, especially because the remote play you can test as well, and people have already been just leaving their house on purpose just to see how well it works.
Yep.
And apparently, other than the occasional lag due to internet connection,
Expected,
especially with-
which is totally expected.
Which is that's that's technical limitations. That's nothing you can do about that in this day and age. Apparently it still works really, really well, even with the lag, especially for the little things like crafting and gathering, maybe even doing your daily quests since you're in no real threat.
Yeah, it actually makes me want to play on the PlayStation 4 the way this is going so far. Where the PlayStation 3, I own a copy just to play it on that if I ever wanted to. The PlayStation 4 version actually makes me want to play it on the PlayStation 4 and not just whenever I'm feeling lazy and want to sit on the couch. So great things. We've got the rest of this beta, and then we also have one more beta phase, which will actually be on live servers and let you use your current characters, too. The PlayStation 3 came up in this interview as well, and this is where it got weird.
I don't know if it's weird.
It might be weird. It might be weird. I think it's a little weird. I think it's
All
a little
you think
bit
it's
weird. I think it's a little bit weird, and I'll tell you
Little
why
bit.
when we get there. So the first expansion has already started development. No surprises there, right? That's just normal development cycles for MMOs. So Yoshi P, with the PlayStation 4, a month from launch, was asked about PlayStation 3 support long term. And it seems that PS3 is part of the development now, so they will get the expansion that's currently being worked on, which I don't think any one of us expected otherwise, right?
No,
We all
absolutely
expected
not.
PlayStation 3 to at least get the first expansion.
Definitely.
However, Yoshi P wouldn't say anything more about how long the PS3 would be supported after that expansion. Does that sound right to you? The math there?
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. When he says supported for the expansion, he's not just saying, here's the disc and then the rest of the patches, you guys are out. It pretty much means that expansion plus every subsequent patch up until the next expansion. When we get to that point. Keep in mind, expansion's not exactly, it's not like the expansion's 2 months away. The expansion, we have no idea when it is.
Yeah,
And then
so
the
I kind of did a
expansion-
little chart here. Moving to the PlayStation 4, the first expansion is probably about a year after that PlayStation 4 launch. That would put it about a year and a half after the PC PlayStation 3 launch, which seems about right development-wise. That means the following expansion would be, of course, 1 to 2 years away. So that means 2 years of PlayStation 3 support from now, 2 to 3 years, and then potentially, again, this is all potential. He just wouldn't, he
Allegedly.
didn't say no, right? Allegedly. He didn't say no, we're not going to support it. He just said, I can't say beyond that first expansion what we're going to do. Does 2 to 3 years sound right to be dropping the PlayStation 3? I mean, PlayStation 2, Final Fantasy XI, I
knew
played
that was going to come up.
I played
Yeah.
for 6 years on the PlayStation 2 before I moved to Xbox and PC.
I'm in this day and age, something like the PlayStation 3, there are going to be a few titles that come out for it this year, and maybe even a couple next year, like a few here and there that kind of slip their way in. But I have a feeling we're going to move off of the previous generation a lot quicker than we moved from the PlayStation 2 to the PlayStation 3. That was a really slow process.
Well, also, when Final Fantasy XI came out, it was in the middle of the PlayStation 2's life cycle.
Yeah.
And you're looking at the PlayStation 3's life cycle it's getting toward its ends. It's probably, what a year and a half or so that you're really going to see game support, and then things are going to fall apart. So the timing still seems fine to me. we're already seeing the struggles that they've already got having content play correctly on the PlayStation 3. Look at Twintania, for example. I mean, that's already has problems. We already have to do special strats for PlayStation 3 players. I understand that it's somewhat of a burden, but eventually they need to move the burden.
See, I think, I agree with you that it's unfortunate timing is probably the biggest factor here, is that they ran up against the end of the PlayStation 3 life cycle before they could launch on it.
Remember we had 1.0.
Right.
It's really because of 1.0, because 1.0 would have hit exactly where
Right, and now with version 2.0, they've run up against the end of the PlayStation 3. I also think that there might be an argument for the PlayStation 2 on Final Fantasy XI was probably supported way longer than it should have been, and maybe they're learning a lesson there too. I'm not like rose-colored glassing this. The Final Fantasy XI towards the end of the PlayStation 2 support. It wasn't good.
Oh no, it was not good. There was a point where they released a patch, and the PlayStation 2, even if you had every single bit of space open on your PlayStation 2 hard drive, it wouldn't fit. So they had to do an emergency patch to reduce the size of the previous patch to make it fit. And that's why the expansion that came out last year was not sold on the PlayStation 2 here in America. It was only sold on the PlayStation 2 in Japan, which is still shocking to me. But they finally moved on for the most part from PlayStation 2.
You also have another aspect of this, which we haven't mentioned yet, which obviously was not a factor going from PlayStation 2 to PlayStation 3, in that you're able to upgrade. If you're a PlayStation 3 player, they're giving you the ability to upgrade to the PlayStation 4 version one time for free, but you can't use your PlayStation 3 account anymore because you're playing on the PlayStation 4. That wasn't even an option,
You're hearing from everybody else, why would you ever go back?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
That wasn't even an option back in the PS2 to PS3 days because the game never launched for the PS3. You could just play your PlayStation 2 version on your version 1 PlayStation 3, but even then, they stopped being backwards compatible, so you really couldn't do it anymore. So, I mean, there's that factor in there I think weighs into this a lot, too, where, we're looking at the PlayStation 3 base and hoping they'll adopt PlayStation 4 sometime in the next 2 years, and we're going to let them upgrade when they do, so we don't really need to support this as long as we did in previous incarnations. So, I guess you're right. All right, you've talked me off the ledge on that one. Also surprising, though, Crystal Tower was supposed to be a bit more difficult than it actually was. And we kind of all speculated that on this show, Mr. Happy, you, Gary, and I, that when it came out, we just had the feeling that this was originally harder because it kind of felt almost too easy to us the first couple of times through.
Well, not just that, but prior to when it actually got delayed back from 2.0, because we got to remember Crystal Tower is meant to be launched with the game.
Right.
Initially. The Crystal Tower, he even said back then it was too hard.
Yeah.
Like, one of the questions...
That was one of the big reasons that they held it off, was that they needed to tune the difficulty. They were worried that it was too difficult.
Yeah, so it's not even just speculation. But I guess what was nice about this, though, and we'll go over that in a second, is what was more difficult about it?
Yeah, that's the really interesting part of this.
Well, but here's the thing. He did start to get specific. He was specific in that it wasn't the monsters that were stronger. It was the mechanics. More things like Atamos, where you have to stand on the tiles. If you're not familiar with the fight, there's 3 Atamos. You have to break into 3 groups, and parts of your group have to stand on a tile to protect other parts of the group and allow them to damage their Atamos. So it's 3 separate parties doing their own thing, but there is a mechanic where they're helping each other be able to do that. There were more mechanics like that. And each party's DPS became way too important. From what Yoshi P said, almost all the fights had some type of mechanic like that. Surprising that they toned it way down, Neo?
It's not a surprise because if you're running with just, which would basically be 3 8-man groups, then why isn't it simply an 8-man raid? I mean, you need the people to be working together and not just have them always cordoned off in 3 different directions. I don't understand why they looked at that in the first place, but I think what they ended up doing was the right direction to bring things together. They probably still could have made it more difficult. They probably, and maybe at some point when they add that 24-man queuing that we still no idea when it's going to happen. They'll have some kind of harder mode for that.
Yeah,
but,
that was going to be my next question, is when and if we're able to finally queue as a 24, do you think, Happy, maybe we'll see a difficulty modifier, or is just... He's already said that future editions of Crystal Tower are going to be basically the same difficulty curve. Does that mean he's kind of locking this in here? We're not going to see like a hard or an extreme mode of Crystal Tower? I know it wouldn't be a hard mode or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Ah!
Yeah.
A more difficult version with a full pre-made 24.
I don't think we'll ever see a harder version of Crystal Tower. And to some degree, it makes sense that we'll never see a harder Crystal Tower. I pondered on this a little bit. Final Fantasy XIV is the only MMO I can think of that's making a conscious effort to make the larger raid size the easier one, whereas the smaller raid size is the harder one. And if you think about the way the MMO market works, that almost makes sense. I mean, you look at it for the most part. The hardcore, the people who rush through the content and then say, oh, there's no content in this game, I hate it. That's a very small percentage. That's maybe 10% maximum. That's honestly stretching it. You can break that 10%.
Yeah, it's less than that, but whatever.
Yeah. Like, then you have people who are to do it quickly, and then you have people who power through. It's broken down into tiers even from there. And the majority of the player base are casual players. Therefore, the content that allows for more people is the more casual piece of content, whereas the ones that require the most teamwork are the small groups. It almost made sense to me when I finally thought about this, when I read this, and I was like, you know, that does sit well with me. Just from a design
and
aspect.
that was, I agree with you. I mean, it was the last note I put in here for our little show notes was, maybe this kind of works with Coil and the extreme modes being as pretty damn challenging as they are. It is a nice balance across the board.
Yeah, and to me, honestly, just because if something has more people doesn't mean it should be harder. I mean, to me, that's almost artificial difficulty because there's more room for human error, which is a super common thing. You know, human error accounts for so many problems outside of video games, not to mention inside of video games. And to me, more people just makes it so that you can have more people who can mess up. The fight's not necessarily harder because the fight is harder. It's harder because you have more people that could potentially make a mistake. And to me, that's just artificial difficulty. I'd rather stick with the 8, maybe in the future 10-man raid sizes. I would like to see it at least go up to 10, 8. But I think that the smaller raid size being the harder one makes sense, especially with the way the game is designed.
I just wish there was a little bit more progression, maybe you could call it, for the people who are a little bit more casual. I'm not sure how difficult we're actually going to see Leviathan hard mode. It's not really going to be hard. I guess
Wandering Minstrel. Maybe he's got a story for us.
That might be an option. That might be an option for Wandering Minstrel to make things a little bit harder so that the casual, to a degree, has...
Come on, man. A year from now, that minstrel is going to be abused by Square Enix. They want to make it more difficult version. Yeah, we want to make it more difficult. Well, it's going to take time to develop the content.
I'm waiting for Ribbon Road. I'm waiting for Ribbon Road Extreme.
Yep, everything is just hard mode. We don't even have to tie this stuff together with story. You know, it was really great what we did with Hawk Manor and Copper Bell and made them new story and everything. We don't even have to do it. Just give it to the minstrel. Speaking of harder content, though, we did talk about the Echo buff on previous shows, and that being implemented for Coil in 2.2 in waves, once per week, getting progressively stronger and stronger to help teams out when the first 5 turns of Coil are old news, post 2.2. But Yoshi P and team are currently deciding if maybe they should add them to the hard mode primals too.
Meh.
It's still not going to save people from landslides, so go right ahead.
Oh, exactly. You're going to need to put up
good
bumpers
idea.
all around the room. You have to put bumpers up.
Extreme mode isn't an option right now. From the interview, they were just talking about hard mode. So hard Garuda, Ifrit, Titan. I mean, you've got to assume that Ultima is probably in that mix too.
You know what? You know why I think the hard modes? Because they are the gate for Bahamut's Coil 1 through 5. They are the gate for that piece of content. Therefore,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
why not include them in the Coil 1 to 5 Echo buff?
Oh, as part of the Relic Reborn quest.
Not even that. You have to do those outside of the Relic Reborn quest to even get access into Coil 1 through 5.
Gotcha.
So that's how I looked at it, and it made perfect sense to me.
That makes a lot of
From
sense.
landslides, but
How about,
like you
how
said,
about this
put
one?
bumpers up.
How about this one, Neo? Myth cap removal coming in 2.2?
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be necessary. We're going to need a new type of tombstone. So why would you leave the cap up? So, yeah, absolutely. Makes sense.
And then why would you even make Crystal Tower? And on that note,
Finally, to Game Wash, Yoshi P talked about new classes, jobs, weapons, of course, all the usual questions that we get asked on this show. He also got asked. But it was nice to see and that they kind of... They were willing to talk about, hey, we don't want current weapons to be crap, you know, once the new stuff comes out. Now, the argument here, though, is that they're still going to try and maintain those weapons being important for those levels of power. So once it's not abandoned. However, those of us that have powerful friends, right, big enough groups, are going to be able to skip levels of gear on alts and things like that by just being carried through things. But there's still going to be somewhat of a progression here for new players that maybe don't have people that can power them through things. You're still going to want to get your relic at some point, even if you're not going to carry it all that long. That is what I like. I like seeing that even though you're not going to wear it all that long, there's still reason to get it besides I just want to collect all the relics or the Allegan weapons or insert weapon here, whatever.
The other way I understood it, and it wasn't even in that, it's just that those weapons aren't going to be made weaker, but new weapons will be stronger. I didn't so much read into it that they are always going to have a place where you'll want to obtain them. I just read it more as, no, we're not going to be making these worse, we're just going to be making better things, which speaks for itself with item level. I don't know how you would possibly keep releasing content that... I mean, look at it. CT's already proven that they can very easily just make old stuff completely useless. If Mythology's uncapped, and the new 4-man dungeons are going to give the new tombstone, which was also confirmed in this interview.
Yeah, that was already... And that was confirmed previous to this interview.
Yes.
We knew that for weeks now.
So they're already...
That was in live letter, the last live letter, part 1, that there was going to be a new tombstone. They just hadn't named it yet.
Astrology.
It's the tombstone of Yoshida.
Tombstone Yoshida.
Yoshida was the
Tombstone
joke.
Of Yoshida. No, it's confirmed allegedly.
Allegedly confirmed. The
Allegedly
tombstone
confirmed.
of artificial coconuts.
There you go, Samoas.
Apparently, maybe I couldn't see the show notes right. Speaking of seeing, want to take out a minute here just to talk about another sponsor of ours. So happy to have these guys on, Warby Parker. Right now, warbyparker.com/gamebreaker. If you are like me and wear the eyeglasses, this is a stop you want to take to help support Gamebreaker. So here's what they do. It's an eyeglass company that is on the internet. And I know you don't really think of going to the internet to look at eyeglasses. But they've got a couple different cool features that make me really proud to have them as a sponsor here on Gamebreaker. The first is their at-home try-on kit. So here's what you get. Go to the website, pick some glasses that you like. There's also an app that allows you to put a picture of you on here and start trying glasses on before you even select them so that you can get an idea of what they look like. Pick 5 pairs. Once you've picked 5, they're going to send them to you in a little Warby Parker box here. Now, it doesn't cost you anything. I think they charge like $1 on my credit card to make sure I was a real person. And they even send you a label to ship it back. So you don't even have to worry about paying for that. They send you the 5 pair you selected. And these are really high quality frames. I mean, these aren't little chintzy frames that are going to break when you drop them on your table. $95 is pretty much all the frames start at $95, and there's an awful lot of them that are at that low price point. Try them on, mess with them, put them on with your headsets. That's what I like the feature for. Wear them, walk around the house, do whatever you need to do to test them out. Pick a pair, let them know your prescription, and boom, you got yourself glasses. Ship them back. High-quality glasses starting at $95. And here's the really cool part that makes me proud to talk to you about them. If you buy a pair, Warby Parker is going to give a pair to somebody a little less fortunate than maybe can't afford to buy the glasses. They've given over 500,000 pair away. They've got sunglasses if you're not a prescription wearer. Men's, women's, doesn't matter. Take a look, warbyparker.com/gamebreaker. If you use that URL, you're going to get 3-day free shipping on the pair that you order, your prescription pair or your new pair of sunglasses, whatever you decide to order. Use our URL, show support for Gamebreaker by helping our sponsors. Get 3-day free shipping. That's not an option on the site, so make sure you use that URL. So happy to have them on board. Thank you so much, Warby Parker. Last up today, when is a ninja patch not really a ninja patch?
I want ninja.
Red Mage.
Apparently, when Yoshi P says it's not a ninja patch. So 2.16 launched, and there was a few items that didn't quite mesh well with all the existing code in the game. And this really hit Turn 2 and Turn 5 of the Binding Coil of Bahamut in particular. Turn 2, the Enrage mode, the method of kill that people are now using, and Yoshi P in his interview or in his reply to this again acknowledged that, hey, fine, we don't care if you want to use that strategy, so go for it if you want to. So the idea was if you go in there with 2 overgeared or 3 normal geared healers that you could just AoE heal the hell out of it and beat it on the enrage timer, and you totally could, no problem. But after 2.1, you couldn't. Unless you took in, some groups were taking 4 healers in to do it.
It became N+1 for the numbers of healers. That you
Right.
Either 3 good healers or 4 normal geared ones.
So if you were using 2 overgeared, you need 3 overgeared. If you had 3 regular geared, you needed 4. And people were kind of pissed after they had already said on the forums publicly, this is a viable method. We're not going to take it out and everything. And then 2.16 hits, and all of a sudden it's broken. The forums were not happy. Turn 5 also got a little bit of a bashing. Happy, what happened there?
Well, the one that I know for sure actually happened, because I had already done Turn 5 by the time the patch dropped, and by the time they had fixed it, I didn't go into Turn 5 until they had already fixed it. What was happening is it's a very common strategy to have your tank who eats Death Sentence, which is a very powerful one single target hitting ability, just go into the conflag. He won't get attacked or anything while he's in there, so he basically isn't taking any more damage than maybe 200, 300 per tick every 3 seconds. What was happening after the patch was that as soon as the main tank ran in there, he would just hit the other tank, or whoever was second on threat, if you had a healer who was maybe spamming Medica too much. He would go right after them with their death sentences and his plummets instead. And considering how common of a strategy it is to put your main tank in the conflagration, that didn't go over so well with a lot of people. Right. Some people are also saying that conflagrations and snakes have HP reduced.
No, that's not true.
I
can speak from experience on that. We actually went in on Thursday to do Turn 5, and we did not see any difference in conflag HP. We did not see any difference in Snake's HP. Those were rumors. Those were unfounded. That didn't happen. So you got to be careful when reading the internet, folks. Occasionally they lie to you.
Yeah, Neo's lying to you right now. Everything on the internet is true. Yoshi P actually had this to say about those that thought it was intentional. Many players have expressed the opinion that this was a stealth change that we intentionally failed to mention in the patch notes. Rest assured that such changes are strictly against our policy. We realize that our players are much too sharp to fall for such tactics. Put the butter on.
They realize that now.
Let me butter you up a little bit. He continued, I realize that the inaccuracies and oversights in previous patch notes have no doubt led to such concerns, a situation for which I sincerely apologize. So does this mean Dark Devices wasn't ninja patched, or was it?
I don't know, because apparently they never fixed it back.
Right.
So.
It never got fixed back. Maybe it's just our imagination.
They acknowledged that was an accident too. They acknowledged it,
but they never put it back.
They never
fixed it back. Because by then they were already making dungeons better than Fate. So they're like, doesn't matter.
No big deal. Nobody does it anymore.
Before we head on over to the viewer questions, Doll Festival starts in 3 days. You know I'll be all over it because there's a minion up for grabs.
That's a really good-looking minion.
Yeah,
too. That looks like nothing that's in the game already.
It's totally different from any of the other minions. What's the lore on this one, Neo? Do you know? Are you familiar with the whole Doll Festival thing?
Well, I know it from the Japanese perspective. You are dealing with the Doll Festival, also known as the Girls Festival, which happens on March 3rd. And basically, your 3- and 7-year-old girls get dressed up in kimono, visit the Shinto shrines, and visit family. And that's pretty much what it is. They also have a doll display, which is like 7 levels of dolls, and it starts from like the Emperor and his wife, and then it just goes down the chain. So it's a very Japanese thing, so we're getting a little bit of Japanese culture, although I am confused on some of the translations. They said it was like peach blossoms. Normally it's cherry blossoms, so maybe
Damn it!
new translators.
I like peaches, so
Fix it.
I'm okay with that.
Fix it.
I don't.
As
But-
for the Final Fantasy XIV lore, apparently there was a sultana of Ul'dah hundreds of years ago who ruled ruthlessly and had a daughter that he locked away from the world. And apparently she snuck away at some point, and he arrested a family when he found out the daughter who went along with this, switched places with her so they wouldn't find out. Apparently he burned the family's house down and ordered them to be tortured and imprisoned. And then the daughter took responsibility, so he actually became their servant. The family, he built them a brand new house and became the daughter's servant for a day. And apparently it's supposed to be in some sort of commemoration of that. That's just the general gist of it. I don't think it's going to matter to anyone at all.
No, it's not going to matter to anybody.
I think it's going to take 15 minutes a quest.
Go get my minion,
we'll never talk about this
and
again.
That's it. Viewer questions before we wrap it up today. This is going to be fun because you guys didn't see the viewer questions.
No, I did not.
No, and they knew I was coming on the show. I'm going to get slaughtered here.
Yes, that's what happens when your wife's flight is late. You get to grab the viewer questions and not have to share them with anybody else. So I promise I'll keep them easy for you. We won't let this get out of control. First up, Tony Carnival wants to know, in patch 2.2, do you think we'll see an event like the Lightning Returns one for the relaunch of Final Fantasy X HD?
Nope. They've already confirmed on the forums they will not be doing
Plus it's late.
such an
It's
event.
too late because March 17th is when 10.2 come out. We're not going to have 2.2 by then.
Also, it came out in Japan months ago like Lightning Returns did.
Well, that's true.
So, no.
Yep.
Nope.
Easy one, already confirmed. Linka Moonstrider says, so, since Coil T1 through T5 will get open to run it as much as you want, do you think Square Enix might put the same loot restrictions as in CT, like you can only get one piece a week? Happy, you and I talked about this on the show, and just gameplay-wise, it doesn't make sense to do
Mythology's uncapped. What's the point?
Yeah, they're just gonna
there's no point.
open it up.
Nope.
Just gonna open it up. Timothy
These
Tregzer
stream modes are yep. Go ahead.
says, I have a lot of people in my free company saying that adding new turns to Coil and new tomes with higher level gear will kill the Crystal Tower. Opinions from the three of you? I agree. I explained
That's not an opinion.
I
That is a
explained
fact.
I explained that on a previous show when Mr. Happy thought that Happy and I actually got into that, and I convinced Happy when the Coil restrictions were coming down. I said, well, this totally negates Crystal Tower, and we went through it on a show here. Yes, it kind of kills Crystal Tower in my book. You guys agree?
Well, I hope future Crystal Tower just gets some voice acting so I can enjoy it while I do it the first time. Well, hey, we are getting voice acting in the next main story missions. We didn't get them in 2.1, but I'll take the one cutscene they're going to voice act for 2.2 because I know that's all I'm going to get.
Jutton Chops puts a long story here. Says, first off, guys, kick-ass show. Thank you. We appreciate it.
You.
Yep. Thank you.
Really enjoying the podcast. Doesn't have a Realm Reborn yet, as I'm going to wait for the PlayStation 4 release and get the standard edition, as I have the version 1 collector's edition. But guys, I gotta get my fix. I want to use the character creation benchmark just so that I can spend hours designing and refining my hero, but I have a Mac. Gross, I know. So is there a way to download the benchmark on my roommate's PC and then transfer the character save files to my future PlayStation 4, or is that save data server side, or am I shit out of luck?
He can do that, can he?
You
His
can
friend's
do this.
PC?
I believe you can do that now. They changed it in 2.15, right?
Yep.
They changed it so you could actually do that.
You
So,
can grab
yes, you
those
can.
files and those settings, and yes, you can do that now. You have a little bit of work ahead of you, but yes, you can do it. Nick Baker, aka Neobari, you can follow him on the Twitters at Neobari. That's Nyoobari. Gamebreaker Nation fellow officer, friend of mine. Love you. Thank you for doing the show. It was a pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Also, Michael Poveromo, Mr. Happy, aka Hildebrand, aka Happy Brand.
Nice.
You can follow him on the Twitters. That's at Mr. Happy 1227. I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magic Man. You can follow me right there at MagicMan1, MAGICKMANN1. We do the show every week, Tuesday at 4 Pacific, 7 Eastern, except for today. So next Tuesday, back on schedule, I promise. If not, check the show out on YouTube. Come on over to GameBreaker.tv. Have some fun, hang out with us. Until next week, gang, stay safe, and we'll see you out on the servers.
Ready, check.
I'm not here.